Will the league end in a lockout? Will we have a season in 2026? From what I am hearing, it seems like everything is pointing to a player strike, basically a lockout for next season.
Panic isn't just a word floating around WNBA offices right now. It's the mood. And it's not because someone bricked another open layup. It's because experts are warning that 2026 could be Caitlin Clark's final year in the league. Yes, the same Caitlin Clark who has single-handedly turned half-empty arenas into sellouts, made TV ratings spike overnight, and convinced casual sports fans to actually learn when WNBA games are on. If that doesn't make you nervous for the league's future, nothing will.
I feel like we're quickly headed towards a scenario where there's going to be a lockout in the WNBA. And this is something I've talked about a few times because I think the players, they just have a much higher perception around their dollar value worth than the league is actually worth. And some of this stuff will work itself out, right? Like if you look at the WNBA, attendance, viewership, like merchandise sale, everything's up and to the right. Sponsorships, they're making a lot more money, TV rights, everything. But most people don't understand the dynamic between the NBA owning a large chunk of the business, the owners owning a large chunk of the revenue stream, and the players are out there every day. I mean, you just look at what was happening in that 60 Minutes interview. Aaliyah Boston said that she wants commas in her paycheck, $1 million+ essentially, right? And that's not happening anytime soon in the WNBA. Like, it's just not going to happen. A'ja Wilson makes $200,000 a year. And we're going to get to a point where that's going to set in as reality. And I think the players are going to have a really hard time dealing with that because they're going on the road and they're seeing these sold out arenas, but the economics of the league just don't give that opportunity to them.
This isn't a slow burn problem the WNBA can handle when it gets around to it. The clock is already ticking, and every sign points to a massive showdown when the current collective bargaining agreement expires in 2026. Right now, players believe they're sitting on a winning hand. They see sold-out fever games, jerseys flying off the shelves, sponsors cutting bigger checks, and broadcast networks falling over themselves to air more games. Their conclusion? It's payday, and not just a little bump. They're demanding salaries that jump from roughly $150,000 a year to $1 million.
WNBA players right now, they are looking at details like ratings, attendance, social media impressions, increased mainstream interest. They are using that as leverage in an attempt to justify a massive increase in their minimum wage salaries. Most people get a raise, they're asking for 10%, maybe 20%. WNBA players, they are demanding to go from $150,000 a year to $1 million a year.
On paper, that sounds like progress. In reality, the WNBA's financial foundation is still more like wet cement than solid concrete. You can't promise someone a luxury penthouse when the building's still under construction, and the league knows it. But here's the tension nobody wants to say out loud. The WNBA is riding one wave right now, and her name is Caitlin Clark. Without her, those attendance spikes, merchandise surges, and TV boosts vanish. That's not a maybe, that's basic math. The problem is, Clark doesn't have to wait around if things turn ugly. If the 2026 season gets canceled because neither side will budge in the CBA fight, she can walk. Not retire, not take a break, but walk straight into another league that's already waving seven-figure offers in her face.
If the WNBA decides to lengthen the season and take away other opportunities for these players, but they lengthen the season without paying them more, there could be players who decide that they would rather go play in Europe. They would rather just play in an off-season league like Unrivaled or Athletes Unlimited. And it's also so wild because the WNBA has announced that they will be expanding. They're creating more teams. And with these expansion teams, there have been WNBA players who have come out in interviews and they're saying, I'm not sure why we're expanding the league so quickly. We don't even have enough players on our rosters right now.
And here's where the real danger kicks in. The WNBA is acting like it has the same brand strength as the NBA or NFL. Leagues that can survive a year-long holdout without collapsing. It doesn't. Take Clark out of the picture, and this isn't a deep bench of cultural icons. It's a league scrambling to convince the public to keep caring. To understand why this is spiraling into a potential disaster, you have to look at the 2026 timeline. That's when the current CBA ends, and every sign suggests the players' demands and the league's position are miles apart. In sports, That's called a lockout recipe. And if it happens, the consequences for the WNBA won't just be bad. They'll be catastrophic.
I'm starting to think we are headed towards a WNBA lockout, which would be disastrous. The NFL would take a hell of a hit if they had a lockout. You know, MLB had a lockout in '94, took them 5 years to recover.
Here's the reality. Every free agent in 2026 will be on a one-year deal or expiring contract. That means if the season is canceled, an entire roster of the league's biggest names, except those still on rookie deals, will be free to walk away. General managers know this, but there's no way to prepare for it. You can't plan for a season that might not exist.
Nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to sign more than 1 year. Any free agent this year will not sign more than 1 year because of the CBA.
Yeah.
When 2026 comes around, the entire league will be free agents except for people on their rookie deals. I don't even know, like, how does that even work? I don't, to the GMs, like,
GMs, assemble.
good luck.
This is where the cracks start to show. The players see booming ratings and record-breaking sales, but they're treating that as proof the league can pay what they want now. They're not thinking about whether that growth is sustainable or what happens if a canceled season kills all that momentum. And they're definitely not thinking about what losing Clark would mean in the middle of it all. While the WNBA debates how much it can realistically spend, a rival league called Unrivaled is writing million-dollar checks for just 2 months of play. Last year, they even offered Clark over $1 million to join them, more than quadruple her WNBA salary for less than half the schedule. If you think that offer is going to shrink by 2026, you're dreaming.
There is still such a disconnect between the higher-ups at the WNBA and the players. The players are saying, look, you're making our season longer, you're expanding teams, you're still not playing us more. We want to play in Unrivaled. We want to make that money. It's easy money for us. We just live in one city. We make some money. The ratings don't matter. The ratings for Unrivaled weren't as good as WNBA ratings, and they didn't matter because they still got paid. The players are looking at that and they're saying, what's going on?
This is why experts aren't saying Clark might leave as a rumor. They're treating it as a very real scenario. If the CBA collapses and the season disappears, she can take the Unrivaled deal, cash in on endorsements, or even play overseas for bigger paychecks and lighter schedules. The WNBA can't match any of that on money alone, so its only play is to sell her on legacy and long-term growth. But you can't sell someone the future when you might not have a season next year. And there's another problem: the respect gap. From hard fouls to subtle digs in interviews, Clark hasn't exactly been welcomed with open arms by the league's veterans. So if you're here, the question becomes obvious. Why stick around for less money, more games, and more drama when there are options that pay more and treat you as the main event?
If they end up running her out of the league, and guys, I think there's a chance they run her out of the league. I do. I think there's a chance they run her to Europe, where she can make as much or more money than she will ever make here. And my God, people don't understand this. For example, let's say, what in the hell do you think China would pay Caitlin Clark to come play basketball?
And that's the part the WNBA leadership really doesn't want to talk about. If she leaves, the league loses the single biggest reason casual fans care right now. You can't replace that overnight. You can't manufacture another Caitlin Clark, and the longer they pretend otherwise, the more likely they are to lose her. The WNBA's biggest blind spot right now is thinking it has time to work things out. It doesn't. Every week, the CBA negotiations stall, the pressure builds, not just from the players, but from the rival opportunities staring them in the face. And in Clark's case, those opportunities aren't vague what-ifs.
How in the hell is Unrivaled offering raises? Last I checked, this secondary league was on life support. They're already vastly overpaying their players, most of which lack the ability to draw ratings with a sharpened pencil. Last season, the average player in Unrivaled made $220,000.
They're confirmed offers that would instantly double, triple, or even quadruple her current paycheck. Let's pull back the curtain for a second. The WNBA's recent growth is being sold as league-wide success, but most of that surge comes from one player's presence. When Clark plays, attendance spikes. When she doesn't, The numbers drop like a bad free throw. Networks know it. Sponsors know it. And you can bet the players know it too. That's why this fight isn't about some abstract players versus owners standoff. It's about the one player holding the keys to the league's future. And here's the thing. Clark doesn't need the WNBA as much as the WNBA needs Clark. If the season gets canceled in 2026, she has the freedom to test unrivaled, head overseas, or even take a year off and still make more in endorsements than her current salary. The NHL lockout in 2004-05 is the warning shot here. That league had decades of history, established fan bases, and deep-pocketed media partners. And still, canceling a season knocked it off the cultural radar for years.
There's a whole bunch of people that didn't want to give Caitlin Clark her shine. But let me go over some of these numbers just to remind y'all of what this young sister brought to the table. 6 different league television partners set viewership records that year, her rookie year, for its highest viewed WNBA game. Do you know every one of those games, including the Indiana Fever?
The WNBA doesn't have the cushion to survive something like that. Cancel 2026, and it's not a setback, it's a crater. And here's the kicker. The WNBA isn't negotiating from strength. They're gambling that the league's brand can hold even without Clark. But this isn't the NBA, where losing one star barely dents ratings. In this league, losing Clark means sponsors pull back, TV partners pay less, and merchandise sales nosedive. Add to that the fact that Unrivaled is painting itself as the player's ally. They're adding roster spots, raising salaries, and giving stars promotional roles. It's not just about money, it's about control and respect. And for a player already carrying a massive load in the WNBA, the idea of playing fewer games for more money, without the constant internal drama, starts looking less like a gamble and more like common sense. This is why 2026 isn't just another contract year. It's the pivot point where the league either secures its biggest star or hands her over to the competition. And if the WNBA leadership doesn't see that yet, they're in for a brutal wake-up call. By now, the warning signs aren't subtle. They're flashing neon. Caitlin Clark is the engine of the WNBA's current success, and 2026 is the make-or-break year. If the league can't get a deal done, it's not just risking a lost season. It's risking its entire identity. Here's where the stakes get even higher. Sponsors, broadcasters, and merchandise partners are in because Clark is in. Pull her out of the equation, and the numbers don't just slow down, they collapse. The Fever games that sold out? Gone. The primetime broadcast that finally pulled solid ratings? Back to being buried in bad time slots. The merchandise sales that broke records? Flatlined. The league's pride is becoming its biggest weakness. They don't want to admit one player is worth exponentially more than the rest, even when it's obvious to everyone else. But Clark isn't just a star. She's the reason many fans even know the league exists. Pretending otherwise isn't just stubborn, it's self-destructive. Let's connect the dots. The players want big raises now, pointing to the surge in attention and revenue. But if they force a standoff that cancels the season, that growth evaporates. Meanwhile, Unrivaled waits in the wings, offering Clark over $1 million for a shorter schedule, less travel, and the main event treatment. Overseas teams can do the same with tax-free contracts and fewer games. Endorsements alone could keep her earning more than the WNBA could ever match. If Clark leaves, there's no replacement waiting. No college phenom is set to walk in and instantly pull the numbers she's pulling. Her jump from Iowa to Indiana didn't just bring attention, it brought entirely new audiences into the sport. That kind of crossover appeal is rare in any league, and once it's gone, you can't manufacture it. The worst-case scenario is obvious. Clark takes the money elsewhere, the rival league eventually folds, and the WNBA's brand is too damaged to bring her back. By then, the sponsors will have moved on, the networks will have cut their deals, and the league will be right back to begging the NBA to keep the lights on. So when experts say 2026 could be her last year in the WNBA, it's not a scare tactic. It's a realistic projection based on the league's own decisions, or lack of them. The window to secure her is closing, and if the league lets it slam shut, the fallout will be brutal. If you've been following the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark, this is the moment to pay attention. Her future in the league isn't guaranteed, and the clock is running down. If you enjoy this kind of deep dive and want to see more stories that break down the real battles shaping sports, make sure to hit that subscribe button and support the channel. Thank you.